Yeah, good morning, everyone. Online students, I'm audible and you could see my screen here. Yes. Could you please close the door? Yeah. So where are we, guys? What are we discussing in the last class? Yesterday, we started with our creating the project. At the same time, we were exploring the complete folder structure. Other than views, routes, app.js, now we get to know what is bin folder, what is node modules folder, how do you create one of the folder as a static folder, which is your public folder. In the same way, what is this package and what is this package log.json? That is what we have seen. Hope everybody is so clear up to here. Everyone? Okay. On the top, what else? What else? I think yesterday I asked you guys to add some changes. Sincerely, no one did this. You did this? Good. At least two sincere boys are there. Okay. Did you submit the code? Then why don't I change this? Look. Okay. You worked on footer part. Awesome. Only footer you have taken care. Do you think? Okay. What is this? This is also added. Fine. One thing is, do you think these company has to be on this column wise aligned? Get help. Okay. Do it. I mean, it is coming like a subheading. Under that, it is coming. That is fine. What else you added into your project? Can I see that? You would have directly added this. Like as we did in this, you can directly add it next time. Okay. Under 830, public, others, project. So you already copied your own project here. In that case, I need to run your project. Same port number? Yeah, same 3000. Wow. No HTML. You already checked it? You both are in sync? You're observing all the things. Very good. Sorry? Okay. Okay, but you haven't submitted that. Can I copy my bootstrap here? Trend store. You created an icon, but not looking good. Make it more colorful. Okay, now I click on login. Oh, you added this part also, but which is not working. Okay, on click of this, it is working. Refresh. You copied our code only, right? Our outside you got it. But if it is outside, it will be hard for the user others to understand. But yeah, this is looking good. Then in that case, you would have directly added this code into our Git. Can you merge this guy? Or else I can do that, right? Where is your code? Components, you added it as a home. Under home, you added this header part. No, under the header, you have done this, right? Now I can copy this header part and main part. I think everything I can paste it. But footer I need to avoid because it is yours, it is coming. You added under the footer tag only. Okay. So that is the reason, like it will be hard for me to do this manually. Next time you can direct, if you feel like it is working good, submit in the Git directly. Our latest trends, public, login. Okay. What else? Login model. What is login model? Okay, that pop-up content is also. Okay. So now, do I need to copy any specific CSS or it's all on the Bootstrap? I need to copy the CSS and images. Okay, I think we already have this main dot, right? You also added CSS under the main only, right? What else? Right? And on my login.js, I need to include that guy, right? I lost the footer. Things got changed. I'll do one thing. I will revert it. Can you please try to add that? That will be easy. Once I click on login, this is what I have. You can merge those changes into this. I'm keeping this. Okay, anyway, footer he has added over here. That is fine. Now this immediate after your content, the footer has to come. I think after this content, immediately you can able to add the footer. You can remove this guy and you can add that footer part. Is the slide is also working? Bootstrap slides, right? Okay, What about others, guys? No one want to contribute in the project? Yesterday, a lot of you said like, I'm raising my hand, I'm going to do. No one, not even in your individual projects. But anyway, that's your personal part. USA is already working. That's good. Okay. So coming to this part, this is what we have done, guys. Header part and all, like tomorrow he's going to add it. Anyway, that is not much into the that's all the look and feel changes. Now, yesterday we have even added this dialog box from your Bootstrap. Now my expectation is user will be providing his ID and password, and he will be adding the CAPTCHA. Once I click on login, what I need to do? Do I need to read the ID and password what user has given? I need to take it and I take it to the server, isn't it? That is what I need to do. So how do I go for that? How do I implement it? So let us have a look on this. And one more thing, before actually going with the server, once I click on login, this is how it is. Or at the same time, along with the login, do I need to have a sign-in option also? Okay, so now I need to say button, this guy will be new sign up, or else new sign up. And for this guy, I need to create a separate dialog box. Yes, right? I will say sign up dialog. And at the bottom, we have the dialog boxes, right? Where is that? This is the dialog box. This is the login dialog box. I need to copy this. I'll paste it. I will call it as a sign up dialog. This guy will be sign up dialog. Okay. Come back and reload this page. I have the login and I have a new sign up. Once I click on new sign up, this is how it is coming. Once I click on login, this is how it is. Now let us change the look and feel of the sign up. So this guy will be new user sign up. Okay. And on the top, I'm going to take the user ID. I'm going to take the account password. And I will say re-enter password. Type equal to password, re-enter password. CAPTCHA we will be having. And along with this, we even provide text. And this guy will be enter mail ID. Reload the page, new sign up. The new sign up is going to have the user ID, password. He has to re-enter the password. He has to provide the mail ID. At the same time, CAPTCHA also has to be provided here. And now once I click on, instead of login, I need to have it as sign up. Okay, now once I close, it has to be closed. Now once I give the data, once I click on sign up, it has to go for this. In the same way, once I click on login, do I need to have an option of forget password also? Yes, right? So now let us even do this. I will go with another button. New sign up, not new sign up. Under the login itself, I need to have this, right? Now I go for this guy. Under the login, close login, or else I will provide a link here. Li, I say forgot password. When I click on login, don't they have a Bootstrap class link? Getbootstrap.com docs. I search for link with underlines. This is how it is. Okay, paragraph tag class a link capacity. This guy. Forget password. Login. This is how it is. Now, once I click on forget password, what I need to do? I need to close this pop-up and I have to show another pop-up where user could able to enter the email ID. Okay, so let us go with that. Now I say for forget password, where is this? Input type equal to button, view equal to word wrap. Class button, these properties I need to add for the link. Data, it is a toggle bar and the target will be forget password dialog. I take out this. Rolex, this guy. Okay, this guy will be forgot password. Login, when I say forgot password, this is how the forgot password is coming. Okay. Now under the forgot password, user will be adding his ID and the email ID. Okay, once you provide the user ID, once you provide the mail ID, CAPTCHA will be continuing it. And I say send mail. Reload it. I click on login. If I say forgot password, this is how it is asking for mail ID and so and so. Now you say send mail, then it will be closed. I mean, sending the mail and all, that's all on the server side. Right now, we are not looking into the server side part. Only on the client side, we are looking. Now, this is all we have done. Login, new sign up part and all. Now, my next part is how do you check that whether user is a valid user or not? What I need to do I need to provide the UID and the password? Now, once I click on login, what is going to happen, guys? Do I need to take this ID and password? Do I need to send it to the server? Server will be validating this ID password. Why the reason server is going to validate this? Because server is the only one who can compare this data with the database content, isn't it? It can compare with the database and it will revert back saying that whether it is a valid data or an invalid data. Are we clear? Okay. Now, in order to do this, what I'm going to do, once the user clicks on this login, you know one thing, if this is the case, now you may ask me a question. Right now, there are 3 pop-ups what we created from line number 84 to line number 185. This is the piece of code which got added. Okay. Do you think that this has to be part of your HTML on load of the page itself? Actually, no. The problem is unnecessarily. When I'm loading this, what if like user is not going for login? What if is not a user is not going for the sign up? User is not even going with the forgot password, but at the background, those pop-up content is already ready for us. Okay, unnecessarily, your DOM structure is getting the complexity. If you inspect this guy, it will be part of the DOM. Okay, see at the bottom, you have this all models which has been already added. Instead of this, what we recommend is try to create a separate templating files for this. Okay. For this, okay, we need to create a separate templating. We will create that later. I mean, what we recommend is We need to create a separate templates folder. Under that, individual files like forgot password, pop-up template, login template, sign up template. We need to create all those. Okay, we will come to that. Now, my expectation is once I click on login, I'm going to give the ID and password. Once I click on login, my expectation is read the data and send it to the server. Okay, how you're going to send this to the server? Let's have a look. And instead of this login.html, I will make it as index.html, because in future we are going to look into the concept of what do you say, SPA, single page web application concept. Okay, I'm going to have index. We never create multiple HTML files here. Okay, there will be a master single HTML. Under that, we try to render multiple things. I'll show you that. Now, when I open this index.html, let us close other tabs. This is how it is. Make it run from the server, localhost colon 3000. Click on enter. This is how it is. Now, once I click on login, this is how it is coming. Now I provide the UID. I provide the password. Once I click on login, I need to read the data. So for this, let me take a separate JavaScript file, login .js under public under JavaScript files. Okay, I'm going to save it as login.js. Now, under this login.js, I say var validate user credentials. Okay, so I say var user data is equal to an empty object. Okay, in order to do the DOM operations, let me include the jQuery also here. Okay, we are going to do the DOM operation. But for Ajax and all, we will avoid jQuery. Where is our jQuery? Under public, we have this jQuery mini.js. I'm taking this guy, putting into our project. Under JavaScript, I'm going to create a new folder, which is libraries, because those are third-party libraries. Okay, I'm pasting it here. Now, do I need to include that guy in our index.html? Yes. Now I say script src is js /lib /jQuery mini.js. Clear? Okay. Now under this login.js, I say user data dot UID, user ID is equal to, I can say $of, where is this user ID? I think we haven't provided the ID and IDs for these guys, right? Enter user ID. I say ID equal to user ID, password equal to ID equal to account password. User data dot password equal to $of hash so and so dot val. In the same way, this guy will be user ID. This will be hash user ID dot val. Any questions? Clear. Now let us see what actually the user data is. Now I say console.log user data. Save this guy. Come back over here. Inspect this. Go for console. Let's reload this. I click on login. User ID. User is providing some user underscore test. Say some sample. Okay. I click on login. Nothing is happening. Why so? I was not invoking this guy on click of this button, right? So I need to say on click equal to validate user credentials. Save it and reload the page. I click on login, user underscore test, password something, so and so. Once I click on login, it says validate user credentials is not defined. Why so? I have included that, right? No, I have not included it. I say JS login.js. Reload it, click on login, enter the user ID, user underscore test, password something. Once I click on login, you see the user ID is so and so, password is so and so. Now I have the data, what user ID is there. Now, after this guy, do I need to close this pop-up? Not actually. I need to validate it. If the user data is valid, then I need to close the pop-up. We will come to that later. Now my expectation is I have the user ID and password, what user has given. What is my next step? Do I need to take this data? Do I need to send this data to the server? Do I need to take this data? Do I need to send it to the server? Obviously, yes, I need to send it to the server. Normally, how do you communicate with the server from the client side? Through the web services. We know that how do we create the web? I mean, we have already seen, not at what do you say, not completely onto that, but at least we have seen like what are the minimum steps we follow in order to create a web service inside your Node.js. Now let us go into that, guys. Now again, I'm changing my direction. Right now, till now, you're only into the front end part. Only in the front end, how do we show it and how do we send the data? That is what the front end job is. But reading the data, creating the web services, validating the data with the database, everything should be done from the server side. Now, let us see how you're going to work with the server here. Again, guys, that is the reason I said to you, here you need to be too much concentrated. I am switching my gear between the client code and the server code. Till now, it is client code. Now, let us go into the server code. Under my server, I need to create one of the web service, a web service which is responsible for reading the data and responding back to the user, validating and responding back to this. Everybody have a clear picture on what actually web services are? At the time of Ajax call, I was mentioning that, right? Let me try it again. So right now, yours is a client code, what we have already done. In the same way, now we have your Node.js server. Now we have something called as your database. Now what I'm saying, under my server, right now, I wanted one job, which is for logging validation. In future, I want another job, which will make my sign out option. In future, I want another job which will be returning me the product details. In future, I want another job which will be adding an item into the cart. So these individual jobs under the server, we call it as a web service. A individual job which is working independent to each other. There is no relationship between these two elements. Those all are working independent to each other. Okay, they are working independent to each other, and these are being identified with unique web service URL. Remember, this we discussed already. We will be having one of the web service URL. Through the web service URL, we will say that, okay, hey boss, get into the picture. That guy will be coming and executing onto the executing in the server side. So this is what now we are going to work on. We already created this Node.js server. Under the Node.js server, I want to create one individual job which is working independent to others. Okay, so how you're going to create a web service inside your Node.js server? Under your Node.js server, when you see this routes folder, routes is the folder which is going to hold the list of all the web services. It is not mandatory that it should be under the routes folder. You can keep it anywhere you want it. But it is recommended to keep into the routes so that you will understand that, okay, all the list of services are under the same folder. Okay, right now there are two JavaScript files you can see. One is index.js and one is user.js. That is the minimum piece of code what they have added. That is indicating that there are two web services which is already there. In the same way, now you can create any number of web services inside this. Now let us say Okay, I'm going to create one individual web service inside this. So how I'm going to create the web service here? Under my routes folder, I want to create a web service. I will say that validate user credentials .js. Okay, .js is, you can assume that this is one of the circle, one of the job which I'm going to create, which is independent. I'm going to create one job under the routes here. Now, what is the piece of code you're going to add in order to make a web service here? The very first thing is express is equal to require express node module. We already know that anytime I want to go with any of the web routing module, we can simply say require with the module name. Under that, now I say where router is equal to, under express, there is a predefined class which is called as router class, something like this. Okay, under express, there is a method called as router, which I'm going to invoke it. Now, based on this router, which is having .get method, right now I'm going to create a get web service. Like this, you can create something called as .post method, .delete method, .query method. Like this, you have n number of methods. But in general, in a real-time experience, we mostly go with the get methods and the post methods. Okay. So now I'm going to make a get communication like this. And this guy is going to take a callback method. First thing is going to take a URL here. What is the URL? Right now, I'm not going to specify anything. I simply say slash. And what is the callback method? This is the callback method. And this guy comes with something called as request and response object. Whenever someone is hitting this web service, we will be getting all the data for the request what been generated using the request object. We will be using this response object in order to respond back to the user that we have already seen when we are creating the server. If you remember, when I say something called as create server method, it was taking a callback method, which is taking some request and response predefined properties. So using the request object, you can send you can read the data what user has sent to you. Using the response object, you could able to send the data what user is expecting. Are we clear? Okay. Now I say router.get. This is the path, and request and response is the one what I have. Now I say modules.export is equal to router. I will tell you this statement later, the line number 8. First of all, let us understand this guy. My expectation is I want to create a web service, individual job or individual web service inside your server using your express under the node.js. Now this is what I'm doing. Using your express, there is something called as a router. And using that router, using the get method, I'm specifying the URL and the callback method, which need to get executed. Are we clear? Everyone? Okay. Now, under this, let us say I will put a message where data is equal to a simple JSON object. I say success. Okay. This is the object which I created. Now I want to respond back to this. Now I say data is equal to JSON.stringify data. This is what we have. Now I want to respond back to this. I say response.send data. Earlier we were using response.end in case of your plain Node.js. But right now it is Express. There is a predefined method called as send, and you can simply send the data. Any questions from line number 5 to 10? Understand this, guys. 5 to 10 is very simple. I'm creating a JSON object and I'm converting that into string and I'm returning back to the server. Any questions? Now, this is how simple you can create a very small web service inside your server. Are we clear? Everyone? Okay. On the top, what else I need to do? Right now, I created one individual web service inside the server. But how the web service will be identified? From the client side, if I need to say that, hey, web service or a specific web service get invoked, how I can invoke an individual web service? Through the unique URL. You need to have a unique URL using which you can invoke the particular web service. So how you're going to specify the unique URL? For that, you need to go into app.js file. You know what is the very first file which gets executed when I say npm start? When I say npm start, what is the first file which gets invoked? Come on. Package.json. Isn't it? When I say npm start, first thing it will go for is package.json. Under the package.json, it will see here, under the package.json, it will understand that what do you mean by start? What do you mean by start? Node space bin www. Now, first thing indirectly what it is working is www. But under www, you know what is the very first file what it is looking for? It is looking for app.js file. So indirectly under your server, app.js is the one which will be coming into the picture first. Okay, you are saying npm start, that is going into package.json. Under package.json, start with so and so command that is called as bin www. I will go to the bin www. Under bin www, you are already looking for the app.js file. So indirectly app.js file is the one which is coming into the picture first. Now, under this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a reference. You see here where I say validate router. You can give any name. I'm creating one of the variable. And what I'm saying, you need to include require dot slash routes, REQU, require slash routes. Under that, there is a file called as validate user credentials. So here you don't need to mention it as a .js here. You can simply say the file name. That's it. Validate user credentials. Are we clear? What I'm doing is I'm creating a variable here. I'm saying that a variable which is identifying under this. Now you tell me, is it is mandatory that it should be under the routes folder, or I can keep it anywhere? Anywhere, just that folder name has to be given here. In general, they are keeping all the data under the routes folder, but you can keep this data any way you wanted, any folder you wanted. Just keep it one individual folder. You say all the services, data, anything you want, you can just create that folder. All the data will be part of it. Are we clear? Okay. Now, after doing this guy, at the bottom, you see there are already two services which is being created for the index router and users. Now I say app.use. Okay. You specify your custom path and its value is validate router. Okay. Now I say under user, you can specify any custom path. I say slash ABC slash something called as PQR. I say some Prasad, I say some test. You can put any path what you wanted here, any custom path, but it is recommended make it a relevant self-descriptive web service path here. Okay, so that anyone looks into the path, they should understand that what actually this web service is going to do. Now I say something called as validate slash user credentials. Is it not relevant for this? It is more relevant, right? If anyone looks into this web service, they'll say that, okay, they are going to validate the user credential. That's it, boss. These are the very simple steps we need to follow in order to create a web service inside the Node.js. Now, once I save this guy, now I come back. Do I need to restart anytime I do any changes here? Restarting is recompiling the Node.js code. Now, when I say npm start, okay, come back over here and reload the page. Now, once I click on login, I pass, sorry, why I'm doing this? I have not communicated. Now, let us see how whether the web service is working or not. I will copy this URL, go to the browser. I say localhost colon 3000, click on enter. Do you see I am getting a response from my web service? That piece of code, how I'm getting this message success, this piece of code is getting executed and you are getting the response. This is how simple you can create a web service inside your Node.js. Are we clear? Okay, let me repeat this part, guys. For example, I want to create one of the web service. Everyone put some extra attention, guys. Everyone put some extra attention here. Let me close everything. I want to create a web service inside your Node.js. You tell me which folder I need to go first. Right now, routes is the folder under which we are going to add each and every web service file. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create, I say, save this guy. I go to the routes folder, make a meaningful name over here. I say validating credentials.js file. Any questions up to this? Everyone follow the steps, guys. Done. Now, what is the very first thing? Create a reference for the express. Now I say where express is equal to require express. Right? Next thing, I need to create a reference for the router. I say where router is equal to express dot router method like this. Clear? Next, what I need to do? I need to say router dot either get service or post service. Right now, I'm going with the get communication. These guys taking two parameters. I'm going to specify slash. Why the reason I'm just lefting over the slash? Because I'm specifying the path at the app.js file. Why the reason? Why don't you keep it over here? The advantage what you have it if you keep it under the app.js is in future you may create 100 web service. So is it not all the paths are at the same location, which is app.js? I can't go to each and every file and I see that what is the path of this, what is the path of this. Instead of this, I'm keeping it into the app.js file. Here, I'm just leaving out with the slash. Okay. And this guy comes with a callback method like this. And this is request object and response object. Now, under this request object, what all I need to do here? I need to say where some data, something you can put, say some message equal to I'm done. Some simple JSON object. My expectation is when someone hit this service, I'm going to respond back with this JSON object. Now I say data. Obviously, it is not recommended to communicate directly with the JSON object. It is expected to convert the JSON into the string format. Now I say data is equal to JSON dot stringify this data. Are we clear? Next, I need to say response dot send data. Any questions? Okay, this is how simple we are creating the web service. On the top, what else I need to do? There is something called as a module dot exports is equal to router. What do you mean by this guy? Module indicates the complete node instance. What is my expectation is whatever the router I have created, I want to make this router to be available under the complete Node.js environment. Are we clear? What actually I'm doing is I want to export. If you remember, exports is the keyword what we have already seen. What do you mean by exports? If I export it, that can be imported into any external file. So what I'm saying is I want to make this router to be importable to the external module so that it will be available under the node modules. Oh, sorry, node instance. Any questions on this web service file? Now you can create your own web service. Very simple. First step, create an express reference. Second step, create a router reference. Third step, router dot get method or post method. Third step, module dot export. Under the router dot get method, add the business logic. Clear, everyone? Nice. Yes. Why we go with the stringify? That's a good question. Haven't I explained any time before? I mean, did I specifically say that why do we go with stringify? No? Don't even remember whether I discussed or not. Obviously, I haven't discussed with your class. Okay, let me talk about this, guys. You know, whenever I am sending, say, for example, there is one JSON object. Assume this is the JSON object, which I want to send it from the client side to the server. You see, this is how the data will be coming to this guy. Yes. Now, when he want to send the data back to the user, this is how I'm going to send the data to this guy. Now, this data is in the form of a JSON object. You know what happens is if it is a JSON object, network has to put some extra attention. Let us take one practical example. A practical example, guys. Understand this. If you understand this, you will understand why the reason we are going with stringifying every time. For example, I say, assume like I'm giving some valuable glass items to everyone. Assume I'm not going to give, just an assume. Assume like, say, for example, I'm calling one of the student, I'm giving some 10 glass items to him, saying that, okay, 5 glass items to him, which are very valuable, very sensitive. I said like, boss, these are the 5 items. Please take it. There we have the Naresh IT main branch. You please submit it over there. That is what the thing I asked for. I even asked to not to change the order also. When I'm giving 1, 3, 4, 5, the same thing, 1, 3, 4, 2, 5, the same order he has to give it and submit at the Naresh IT office. Clear everyone with the requirement? Now, when he is carrying these glass items like 1, 3, 4, 2, 5 items, as they are very sensitive, when he is carrying, does he need to put some extra attention on the top? So that the order will not be changed. I need to carry as it is and I need to submit at the NIT office over there. This is one point. In the second scenario, what I have now, if I say that everyone has to do the same, you need to take some extra attention, carry the items and put it into the Naresh IT office there. Now the second scenario, what I have done is, I have taken these 5 items. Okay. I have kept in a box. I added all the security, whatever it is needed, like putting on the, you put some cardboards in between, right? To not to get broken, to take care of the sensitivity. On the top, the order is also I have added. Now the box is completely packed. I made it secured. Now I give the box to him. And if I ask him that now you submit the box to this Naresh IT, is it not simple when compared with the previous job? Yes or no? Does he need to put any extra attention now? No. Simply take the box, shake it, and you just throw it at the Naresh IT office. If they wanted the items, they will unwrap it, make use of the items. This is what happens in case of your JSON object. When I'm sending some JSON object within the network, this is the key, this is the value, this is the key, this is the value. I need to take an extra care while I'm transmitting these packets at the server side or at the client side from the network. Now, under the network, say, for example, I'm having some 100 keys and 100 values. So it has to say that, okay, this is the key, this is the value, this is the key. I'm considering it and I need to transmit the data at the receiver or at the sender there. But now, if I make it as a string, what happens here? It is just a group of characters for me. It is not like a key value for me. It is group of characters. I take this data and I send it to the receiver end. That is the reason, even though you take a JSON and convert into string, you know, you have seen that, right? For example, let me take an example. Okay, now I say var data is equal to JSON object name, say some Tina, age, say some 10, I say some gender. Assume this is what the data I have. Now I say console dot log data. Save this. Now, if you come back, open in the browser, inspect this guy, go to console. Is it a string or an object? Object. You see here, everything is in the form of key and value pair. Now, the same guy, if I say var sample is equal to data, JSON dot stringify data. Now, when I say console dot log sample, now let us see this guy. Is it a string or a JSON? It is a string. Am I changing anything here? Am I changing any keys, values and all? No, I'm keeping that flower braces. I'm keeping this inverted commas. I'm keeping this colon. For me, it is like a group of characters. That's it. Now, if I ask the system to carry this guy And if I ask the system to carry the first guy, what happens when I'm carrying this guy? I need to say that, okay, boss, this is the key, this is the value, this is the key, this is the value, this is the key, this is the value. I need to understand this key value when I'm going to send this. I should not exchange this key and values here. But when I'm giving the first guy, boss, it is a group of characters. I'm just taking this group of characters and I'm submitting at the server side or the receiver end. That is what the difference between this. Are we clear? So this is a very good interview question also, guys. People will ask you, what is the best format you use while transmitting the data from client to the server? Obviously, it is, some people think that it is JSON, but it is string format of the JSON. JSON is the best data format what we use while transmitting the data, either for sending it or for receiving it. JSON is the one which is recommended. If you remember, I discussed about difference between XML and JSON. Don't say no. Don't say that. I already said that to not to say no. We haven't discussed the difference between XML and JSON. Come on. We discussed it, right? You're my favorite student. We discussed it, right? We haven't discussed. Come on. Guys, you need to put these questions, guys. Now he asked me the question that what is Stringify? That is how I come up with the example. Okay. So you need to keep on the questions. It is not like whatever I say, you keep listening it. You need to ask me, right? Okay. Now you will ask. Okay. So let us say, you know, like whenever we say something called as Ajax, at that time itself, I should have told this. What do you mean by A? Or full form of Ajax? Asynchronous JavaScript. Remaining, I will fill it. And XML. Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Okay. What do you mean by asynchronous? What do you mean by asynchronous? Parallel execution. So what do you mean by asynchronous here? Whenever I put a request to server, when it is executing, I don't wait for that. I keep going for the remaining and I will execute the things. That is what we call it as asynchronous. By default, JavaScript is not synchronous. It is an asynchronous executor. Okay. Whenever you say set timeout, you say that after 5 seconds, you have to do the job. Do I wait for that? No, I go forward and I go execute the remaining things here. Now, what do you mean by J? JavaScript and XML. The very first question, what you would have asked me at that time itself, what is XML doing in the name? We have never worked with XML. We were using the JSON data to send the data and receive the data. Then what is XML is doing in the name of this Ajax? So in general, in before days, before the Ajax has come, the best data format what we go is to go for is XML. So for this, first of all, let us understand what is XML. Full form of XML. Extendable markup language. If you know, what do you mean by this markup language? When do you call a language as a markup? Anytime you are representing the content using the tags, we call it as a markup language. Now, using the tags, you represent the content in HTML, that is a markup language. Using the tags, we represent the content in the XML, that is why it is also markup language. Now, let us see the difference between XML and JSON. JSON.txt, I will say. Okay. Now, for example, I want to go with the student data. You so this is what I'll say. I will say some, or else I'll say book data. Book info is equal to a simple JSON object. I say book name. Get in okay, author. Let me take some group of values, multiple values, so that you can see the difference. First of all, I'll go with one to not to make it complex. Then we'll go with the group of values. I say book name. Okay, assume these are the authors and book ID. I'll say B_023A1. Okay, and I say publisher. Okay, something like this. This is what the book info I have. The same data. Now I'm representing in what format? JSON format, which is in the form of key and value pairs. If at all I want to go with an XML, obviously everything is in the form of tags. The very one thing which is predefined is there is something called as XML with version. Okay, this is the version what you need to add. Okay, under this, now I will say something called as book details. You see, I'm keeping it inside a tag, and this tag is not a predefined tag. It is a user defined tag. You can give whatever you want, but it should be self-descriptive. It's not like ABC, XYZ and all. Under the book detail, I will say that there is a book. Okay, with ID is equal to attributes I'm adding. I do this. Under this, what is the name of the book here? Name. Okay, under that, I'm going to keep this as my dreams. Under that, I say price, which is so and so. I say authors. Under that, author's name. With ID equal to A_1, A_2. Now I say like this. In the same way, I want to go with publisher. This is what a simple difference between an XML and JSON, guys. If it is a JSON, this is how we are storing in the form of key value pairs. If it is XML, this is how you're going to store in the form of user defined tags. XML is simply used to hold the content. What is the use of JSON? Now, when I say that book info is one of the JSON, is it not holding some data in the form of key and value pairs? In the same way, XML is also one of the data format using which you can hold the data. You can just keep the data with you. That's it, holding the data. And XML is the format using which people used to communicate while sending and responding the data before the JSON has been created. Okay, the world before the JSON, everyone used to go with the XML itself. Using XML, now I want to send some user details to the server. I create in the form of XML, I send it to the server, server make use of it. So we used to go with the XML. Now the question is, why they have left over with the XML? The problem is, if I take this object into the JavaScript, does JavaScript directly understand this? Obviously, yes, because it's a JSON object. If I simply create var bookinfo.name, name is there. But if I directly take this XML into your JavaScript, it doesn't understand. Then what I need to do, assume server is throwing me the book info in the form of XML. It is not ready to make use of it. What I need to do, I need to apply some parsing techniques on it. There are two parsing techniques for XML, SAX parser and DOM parser. Using those two, we have to retrieve the data from this XML. Then you need to make an object out of it. Now, is it not a lengthy process for me? I need to take the XML, take out name, take out age, take out this. Now you create an object. Now you start making use of it. But coming with your JSON, when the object has reached me, ready to make use of this, boss. Okay. That is where the time when JSON has come into the picture, people started leaving the XML as it is. Okay, they are not going to use the XML as a data format because when I'm getting from the server, I get it as an XML. I need to parse it, make use of it. When I want to send it back, again, I have to create it as an XML and I have to send it to the server. In the same way, server, when I'm reading it, I need to parse it, make use of it. When I'm responding, again, I have to unparse it and give it back to the user. This is all the things which is unnecessarily happening under the server side whenever, not at both the server side and the client side when it is in a XML format. Are we clear? Now, in order to avoid this, that is where people have come up with the JSON object. The time JSON has come into the picture, no extra work for me, no extra parsing techniques for me. I can simply get the JSON, start making use of it, send it, start making use of it. Only thing is convert into string. That's it. Okay. So that is the reason the time Ajax has been invented, they used to use the XML as the only data format. That is why XML is being added within the name itself. Through the XML, they used to communicate it. Later, they left over with the XML, but still the name is just as Ajax. Are we clear? Okay. Now, if you ask me a question, do you think that XML is completely left over? No one is making use of it. When you come to the Java server, still the configurations are being added in the form of XML only, like pom.xml, manifest XML. So there are some XML formats which are being used. But what I'm saying is XML is not being used for communication purpose. It is my server, standalone. Inside this, I want to set some configuration, use XML. But this guy want to send some data to the other system. Now, while passing the data, not recommended to go with the XML. Are we clear? This is again a very good interview question, guys. People will ask you difference between the XML and the JSON. Why people has left over with the XML? What are the advantages we are having over the XML in JSON? Clear, everyone? Okay. Nice. Now coming back to this guy. Now you are even clear with the JSON.stringify also. Why do we convert this guy into string? That is one. You are even clear with creating a web service. Now, after I create this validation credentials, what all I need to do? Go to the app.js file. I even need to create this web service. I need to create this web service. What all I have added? / validating credentials. So what I need to do is, boss, under the routes folder, there is a file called as validation credentials, which is router. And what is the path for this? This path, predefined or user defined? Predefined. Predefined. You can give any value what you wanted. Make it as a self-descriptive. Okay, that is user defined. Now, you know, okay, now when I'm hitting this guy, you see here when I say localhost / so-and-so, when I click on this, why I'm still getting success? I have not restarted. I have modified the changes. When I say npm start, I will reload the page. I'm done. This is the message what I got. You know, for example, you are going to one of the organization. Okay, assume like you're going into one of the organization, and they will ask, for example, he has joined my organization, and he said like, okay, boss, I'm a Node.js developer. For example, I asked him, boss, if you see here, there is a web service called as this guy, and this guy is saying that I am done. Instead of this, I want to get it as I'm done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How do you do that? He is not at all having idea. You guys know that where we have created the web service, but being an external guy, do you know where actually he know where this web service has been created? No. The only thing what he have is the URL, validate user credentials. Now, what is his approach to fix this issue? The first thing what he will do is he will go to the app.js file. Under that, he will see where this web service URL is being defined, because anyway, under the app.js, everyone will be defining all the web services. Now under this web services, he will see that, okay, this is the URL what manager has given me. Okay, what this URL is pointing to, he is pointing to something called as validate router. Now, what do you mean by this validate router? Validate router means a file called as validate credential details under the routes folder. Now he will go to the routes folder. Under that validate credential details, there he could see that I'm done. Now he will modify to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like this. Now if we are going to restart this, I say npm start, come back here, reload the page. This is how it is coming. This is how you need to reverse engineer on it. Okay, because when you go to the bigger projects, n number of web services are there. You can't go to one by one. The first point is, what is the URL? Now you can go in a reverse format. Clear, everyone? Okay, now we have created one web service which is responding something. Now what I need to do, from my client machine, when the user ID and password are being provided, once I click on login, do I send that ID and password to this credentials guy? This web service what we have created. Let us see how we are going to do this. Now do I need to do this hitting from the client side or the server side? Client side. Now you see here, I'm again switching my gears here. I'm going into the client side. Under the client, under the public, under the JS login dot so and so. Under this, now I need to create an AJAX call to the URL called as so and so. Are we clear? Okay. How you're going to create an AJAX call? Either you can go with the fetch method or jQuery $.ajax, or recommended is Axios. Okay, because why the reason I'm always pointing to Axios is, in future when you go to the React and all, or Angular, they have their own $HTTP, but if it is React, they are using the Axios. So you will be getting experience with this. Okay, I go with this Axios external API. Okay, so I want to go with the download. Where is the download? Installing. You see, either you can do the installing using your npm also. So let me show you how do you do with your npm. Earlier we have taken the CDN URL. Now I say npm install Axios. That is what the command he has given. npm install Axios. Now if I click on this, okay, installation is done. You tell me which folder the installation will be happening. Node modules. Now let us see, do I have Axios? There it is. Now I go to the dist file. Under that, Axios mini.js file. Okay, I copy this guy and I go into the public. Under the JavaScript library, I'm going to keep it. Okay, now how do I include that guy into your main page? I go to this index.html and I say script src JavaScript, under that library, under that Axios mini.js. Everybody know what I mean by minified file. Okay, now under this Axios documentation, you should be able to see, for example, how do you, okay, this is this guy. Axios.get, see here, this is in the form of promises. That is the reason we generally go for this. .get is one of the predefined method using which you can simply pass this. Okay, but here we are going to send the data. So this is what I want to go. Want to use an async await? No, right now, no. I will go for login.js. Earlier, we used to say something called as fetch method. There we used to pass the URL and all. Instead of this, I'm going with Axios. It is one of the predefined library. Get communication. I'm going to specify the URL. In general, what people will do is, this is how they are going to give the absolute path of the web service. But it is never recommended to go with the absolute URL, guys, while you're hitting the library. Why so? Assume he is using a URL called as localhost 3000. This is what I'm doing. I'm giving my folder to him. Now, when he is running in my server, in his system, I give the complete server package I have given to him. Now, when he is also using the localhost 3000, then it will find work super fine. But what the problem is, what if he is changing the port number to something called as some 8081? I cannot restrict him. Now, when he is changing the 8080 port number, he has to go back to the code and do the changes also here. This is problem number one. And another problem is, in case of organizations, when you go into the organizations, we have different environments. We'll be having SIT environment, we'll be having QA environment, we'll be having prod environment, UAT environment and all. Now, when I'm working in the development environment, I say developing URL. Now, the same code, if I go to the URL, I have to modify it to UAT URL. Instead of this, if you remove this guy, specify it as a relative path. Where is your HTML running? Automatically, you take the path. That is done. Am I clear? So if I specifically mention this as localhost 3000, every time it will look for the localhost 3000 itself. But instead of this, you can specifically mention the custom third part when you just mention the relative URL, so that system automatically decides the URL for that. Okay. Now I gave this validation user detail shells. And what is this parameters? The parameters are the data. I can simply say comma user data. Okay, I'm saying that console.log response then means it is success. Catch means when it is error. Finally is an optional. I mean, what you want to do finally after this guy is done. Okay, now I'm going to say console.reg response. Any questions in this? Axios.get method. I am specifying the URL what we need to hit. I am passing the data because when I'm hitting the URL, I need to pass some data also. What is the data? User ID and password. That will be passed to the server. Server has to validate and it has to respond back to me. Now, when I save it, now when I come back, I reload the page. Now you can go into the network tab. You already know. What do you mean by network tab? What do you mean by network tab? The tab which is going to show you list of all server interactions which are being done. If you remember, we talked about much on network tab when I was talking about the image spriting concept. Right? That time when I was loading n number of images, I was showing to you that, boss, these all are the images which are loading from the server, how much time it is taking, what is the status code it is taking, that we have seen, right? Okay, now I go over here, I click on login, I give the user ID, user underscore test, password, something called as hello 123. Now, once I click on login, you see here, it is hitting this API. But what is the response I'm getting? 400. Why so? Why this percentage 22 is getting added? Some status code. You see, unnecessarily I have added this inverted commas. Okay. Now I come back. I did the change on the client side. Do I need to restart it? I did the change on the client side. Client side, no, because compilation is happening on the browser. When I reload it, I click on login. I give the user underscore test, password, hello 123. Once I click on login, you see here, I am getting the response from this web service as I am done. Are we clear? So I'm hitting the web service and I'm receiving the response under the client machine, but hit is been done to the server. But then now when you go back to the server, you should be able to see server code got executed. But the question is, boss, you see, when I'm going into this guy, under the headers, you should be able to see what is the data you are passing to the user. What is the data? This is the preview headers. There is something called as a payload. What is the data we are passing to the server? Come on, why it is not been shown here? Empty. Data is not going. Why so? login.js, I am passing the user data. Is it is mandatory that I need to put it in the param? Not needed. Params might be needed. Let us see if we keep it in params, whether it is happening or not. It should be under the params. I mean, this is according to the API, guys. Axios guy is expecting that any data, what you are passing, that has to be inside this. Now, what I can say, under the params, I can keep it as a user data. Okay. Now, when I save it, now I reload the page. I click on login. I say something. I click on login. You see, under this guy, you could see that user ID is going and password is also going. And the same guy, we could able to read it under the server side also. Okay. Anyway, for now, we'll pause it, guys. It is too much for today. We have just simply seen like, how do we put an Ajax call using the Axios? How do we create the web service inside your Node.js? Tomorrow, I'm going to extend like, how do you read this data from the server side? And instead of get communication, how do you make it as a post communication? Tomorrow, we are going to have a look on. Okay. So by tomorrow, if anyone want to do any changes for the login, and we have added this new sign up things and all right. If you want to do the changes, please help in doing this. Have a good day. Bye for today.